You're listening to the Soju Sessions, episode 78 on the Soju Talk Nation podcast feed. I'm your host, Crispy, also known as Crispy Wonton or simply just Anton. And on today's show, Koro returns to discuss BLACKPINK, Born Pink, an album discussion. Yes, we get deep into every track on the album. We get into the music videos for Pink Venom and Shutdown, and then also react to some of what the crew discussed this week on the main show. Honestly, I did like the direction of the conversation it went on the main show, and I gotta give a big shout out to the crew, kind of just like holding it down kind of emotionally for everyone, understanding kind of both sides of the argument, and really just wanting the best for BLACKPINK. For all the people online who, are a little uptight, kind of relax because the crew's great. And I do just want to back them up there and just show all the love and support to the main show because they're doing great. They're doing amazing things. And if anyone deserves all the praise and love for the way they talk about K-pop, it's definitely Doug, Warren, and Anita. All right, let's get into it. Coming up, my chat with Koro Sensei on Born Pink by BLACKPINK on the Soju Sessions. Joining Soju Sessions, a man who needs very little introduction, a man who's been here many times, who has many, many deep, inspiring thoughts about K-pop, the one and only Koro Sensei. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello. I'm back again. Hopefully not too much. I know you've seen me a decent amount this year, but I like talking with Crispy and I like talking K-pop, so here I am.
You are a very welcome guest on this show, Koro. It's just we've done a lot of things on this show this year, and I think it's just a natural fit to get you on kind of these deeper, longer album discussions. And BLACKPINK, because I know you do have a history with them, kind of being one of the first groups you got into as far as K-pop, and that evolving into kind of the love you have of a lot of groups in K-pop. So we're gonna just jump right into it and talk about Born Pink, the album. This is BLACKPINK's second full album, Born Pink. Released last week on September 16, Korean Standard Time. And let's go track by track. So we're gonna start with the pre-release with Pink Venom, written by Teddy, Danny Chung, music by Teddy, 24, RT, and Ido. This was a pre-release from a few weeks ago. The crew talked about it on the show before their break in the hiatus. Now that we've had over a month to think about this song and kind of sit with it, what are your thoughts and feelings about Pink Venom?
It's tough because this song, there's a lot I like about it, and maybe this echoes the crew, but there's like really high highs and low lows to this song, I think. And initially when I heard it, I thought, especially because I enjoy the verses so much, I thought this is not a song I can totally dismiss because I really do like listening to those verses. I think that's where the song shines. But now, like listening to the song, even preparing for this podcast, it's definitely a song where giving it that chance has made it more, this sounds harsh, but tolerable over time. Like I listen to it now, and even though I'm still not a fan of the chorus and I'm kind of just waiting for it to be over, it's not bothering me as much just listening to it through. Like I'm waiting for those highs to hit again. So it's not the best thing ever, but it's all right.
I think I land on the fact that there are some kind of amazing moments in the song, as far as them being rappers and really leaning to like the hip hop genre and the hip hop inspiration of the song. Doug did mention it, but there is a TikTok video with all the references to past hip hop and R&B tracks of the 90s and 2000s. I think I have it here. So we have Notorious B.I.G., Rihanna, 50 Cent. I think that's it. Yeah. Well, I think I had more, but I forgot to list them down. But those are the three big ones that are really prominent in the song. And I think they do a really nice job of recapturing kind of that energy of hip hop at that moment in time, right? As far as the low points of the song, I think that they're still pretty glaring, even a month later. The chorus, I think, works better for me now. I understand kind of where they're going with it, kind of it being a little bit more jarring, kind of a shock to the system. But I'm going to just jump right to it. I really just can't get over kind of the end of the song, the gratatata. Again, re-listening to the song over the past few days, I really do like most of the song up until that point, and then it is just a little too long. And that's where it kind of pulls me out of the experience. Because up until that point, I'm with it, right? I understand like where they're going as far as kind of the aggression, the in your face nature of things, and then like really, really like enjoying all the different sections. But yeah, I would just off the bat, just say like, man, I really wish they did something else with the end. Shorten it, anything like just like a minor tweak probably would have adjusted the song for me or recalibrated the experience in a far better way. But let's talk about kind of the things we did like about the song. So I think this was a universally celebrated part of just Blackpink's return in a lot of ways is the rapping. So we have Lisa and Jennie kind of killing it in a lot of ways. What are your thoughts about the rap sections, the two rap sections, after giving it some time over the past month?
Yeah, they really knocked this one out of the park. And that's saying a lot, given that I think rap overall is what they hang their hat on as a group. Like, obviously, there are amazing vocals in the group as well with Jisoo and Rose. Obviously, all of them could sing pretty well, to be honest. But rap is definitely, especially as a YG group, is where they're going to base the songs around. It really feels like they base their songs around, oh, we have these verses we think would be sick, and let's build the rest out from there, especially following the doo-doo formula that they've been going back to a decent amount these last few years. But Lisa and Jennie are like perfect complements as a duo of rappers. Like, most groups have duos, like at least two rappers in a group. But one thing that K-pop lacks a lot, or two things that K-pop lacks a lot, is rapping skill and being convincing as a rapper. Having, I hate using this word now in 2022, but like quote unquote swag as a rapper. And I would say Jennie is one of the more technically able rappers in K-pop. Just listen to some of her verses. Yeah, it's not like true like hip hop, like the best of the best, but for K-pop, it really does stand out. What she's able to do with her flows, and even like, obviously, I don't know, she's probably getting lines written for her, but even like the lyrics for a lot of their songs are just slightly more slick than in the rap verses, at least slightly more slick than most, even though a lot of them are also corny. But Lisa, on the other hand, she does have skill as well, but Lisa is extremely convincing as a rapper. Like, her delivery, I say this on the Discord sometimes, and I mean it as like the highest compliment possible, is she can say almost anything and it will still hit for me, because her delivery is so convincing. And it's mostly like even more impressive because English isn't her first language. But she like sells it in a way that very few K-pop rappers can. I can barely think of any off the top of my head, especially for girl groups. I think someone like Soyeon from G Idol is a good example of someone who has both of these things in one package, which is why I think she's so celebrated as a rapper. But these two together just bounce off. You get Jennie's skill and Lisa just killing it every time. It's just a great combo, and I think they highlighted that in the song really well.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about kind of Jennie and Lisa's rap technique and rap style. Both very different, very clearly unique. But I think also serve the song really well. I mean, the opening just like punches you in the face, right? Like kicking the door. It just is Jennie like right off the bat. And then I think in the G-Funk section that Warren was talking about, I honestly feel like if the majority of the song was that, this would have been kind of something crazy. I get like the intro part of it. They have to kind of ease into it, kind of with the traditional Korean strings, which I really liked. And then I know we're trying to talk about like positives, but then the fact that they introduced kind of the Egyptian like sounds is like, okay, like all right, we're doing this again. But then when it switches up into that second verse where it's just like the G-Funk rap section, and then they're all like decked out in like the hardest outfits imaginable. It does feel like a different song, but with a through line of what they were trying to accomplish thematically. And I think Jenny and Lisa both complement each other, just doing their own style of rap, right? Stylistically very different, but then you can definitely see how they complement each other. For me, I kind of describe Jenny as being able to play within rhythm of the song, bouncing off of different tempos and really hitting kind of like the attitude parts of the song, where Lisa has like a flow that is just like really aggressive, but then also is playful. I might have described things kind of similarly, but it's really hard to like put too like technical of a description on it, aside from like kind of the feeling I get when I see or hear Jenny and Lisa rap, and like that's how I kind of differentiate them. Just I think musically they're pretty spectacular, and I kind of hope and wish like moving forward there's a little bit more emphasis on allowing the track to be separate from them as musicians. I know it sounds kind of odd, but I feel like in a lot of the newer BLACKPINK songs, the instrumental and the arrangement of the song, it takes a little bit away from the skill and ability of what the members can do, if that makes sense.
I think I get you.
Yeah, so kind of like this song, right? Where I feel like the beat is just such an emphasis, where it's like, yeah, but then look, the girls, like they're really good and they execute and perform really well, right? And I think the G-Funk section was probably like the best highlight of that, where it allowed the rap to really breathe and Jenny and Lisa to really just like play in like the space that they're really good in. Just real quick touching on Jisoo and Rosie, the singing girls is what Doug alluded to. Well, let me throw it to you. Oh, what did you think about kind of the lack of emphasis for them on this song?
Yeah, this is I guess the pitfalls of the doo formula. Even if you go back to all these songs, to varying degrees at least, but this is just how they set these songs up. Like we're coming in Jenny, Lisa. Sometimes we'll switch it up a little bit, but mostly Jenny, Lisa. Then you'll have the pre-chorus, Jisoo, Rose, Rose, Jisoo, some order of that, and then obviously chorus, usually some kind of drop, hip hop or EDM bass or something, and then rinse and repeat for the second verse into pre-chorus, and it's kind of, and then maybe they'll get something on the bridge, but it's very predictable, and it's not taking away because they deliver every time. That's like they're doing their job as well as they can, but it feels like you're not really giving them opportunities to surprise the audience or like give them anything they weren't already expecting. The thing with the rapping is that even though we're expecting that, they can continue to do it in different ways. There's more you can do there. But for the most part, the pre-choruses are very similar. I will say Pink Venom, for one, kind of surprised me by like the pre-chorus wasn't too like mellow compared to some of their other ones. So I was like, okay, that's something that keeps the energy up. But unfortunately, that then leads to the chorus kind of betraying that energy. But that's another story.
Yeah. I think overall the energy is very aggressive. It does a lot of things really well throughout the song, but I think the dips are a little too far below that energy line. Specifically with the chorus with the anti-drop, and then again kind of reiterating the end. The end does make sense within the song, I will say that, but it is too long and it is a little too, how should I say this, abrasive. Like it takes away a lot of the attention from the rest of the song that it was building up to. So yeah.
I will say though, I will say about the ending, that was just blasphemous, especially coming from me, because I'm one who's always the anti YG festival train. But this is the one that I can think of BLACKPINK song where I actually enjoyed the festival more than the traditional chorus. It just, I think maybe because I just dislike this chorus so much. That's not saying much because I don't like the festival either, but I do think it's better. It's more palatable for me personally. Where every other one, it's the reverse by so much that I just skip out after the bridge. I know what's coming, but this one, I actually let it rock out to the end, which I'm disappointed in myself because I know they're gonna keep coming with festivals in the future.
All right, all right. Well, Koro kind of likes the straight to your dome, like wah wah wah. Yeah. I mean, again, they play into the character really well with how they perform it and the spirit of it, right? Like I get it, but yeah, no. You know what? If it works for you, Koro, you know, I'm here for it. I'm here for your aggression and your kind of the way that you express this Blackpink in your faceness, because I think that's definitely what we got with Pink Venom. Kind of a strong, you know, abrasive, powerful opening. But you know, it's here, and it does lead us into kind of this trio of hip hop songs to open the album. So yeah, let's get into track number 2 with "Shut Down." Written by Teddy, Danny Chung, and Vince. Shout out to Vince. He hasn't done music in a minute. I do really like his style of hip hop and R&B. So come on, Black Label, give Vince something. And then music by Teddy and 24. This is wow, that was hard. This is the title track, released on the day of the album release on September 16. 9s and 6s, guys. Just make sure you type those correctly. Yeah. What did you think about kind of this one as far as being a violin inspired hip hop song? Shout out to Warren for the details on the sample. So it's a long title. I'm just gonna say Nicola Paganini is the composer of the original. And that was a great breakdown. I do really appreciate that he was able to kind of pick out the section and then talk about that on the main show. But yeah, what did you think about this very violin strings foundation hip hop song by Blackpink in Shutdown?
Yeah. Well, one, shout out Vince. Also, he has a song called "Emergency" that I think is amazing. But this song, I will say, what's going for it, probably more than anything else, is that it's not following the doo-doo-doo-doo formula. Which, and I hate to keep bringing up that song in like a negative light because I do think it's probably their best song, but I think it's so good that they felt like they had to keep going back to it. And I'm glad that this song was able to break from that formula. Now the question is that for better or for worse? Because that's kind of the double-edged sword with that, because that formula does work to a degree. But I think the song is decent enough. It's enough. It's good enough where I added it to my playlist. Um, I don't think it's a skip necessarily, but I do think the energy of the song, it's intentional with the way they incorporated the violin. So like the pacing of the song is maintaining a certain level. I do think it's not enticing enough. Like it kind of feels like you're falling into a lull with the song as it goes along, which is not something you say often for Blackpink. But I do think the song as a whole, it's all right.
Yeah, we talked about this before we recorded, but I think Pink Venom does a nice job of giving two polar opposite sides of kind of the emotional spectrum of song experience, right? Some parts are amazing, so you do either really like the song, and some parts of Pink Venom are just, wow, like that was a choice, and it pulls you out of it. Where Shutdown, I think, is right in the middle. I mean that in all sense of being right in the middle, right? Where I think it's a pretty accessible title track. Like you understand what they're going for. It's very clear. The violins draw you in as far as being kind of a surprise and a unique quality in K-pop, or at least a K-pop release. And then it has the backbone of being a hip hop song, right? So I think all of those things are very understandable. But after that, there isn't anything that I think is this big wow factor that is like, oh yeah, this is the title track, right? And you know, I think for better or for worse, it's kind of safe in that sense for a lot of general public listeners of K-pop. You and I are in a community where we do nothing but K-pop talk all the time, so of course this is going to have a different kind of feeling to it. But I think as far as the way it's going to be received, it's very straightforward, right? But I think kind of talking on the positives, uniquely structured, very stylistically different than any other song that they've done in the past, kind of like what you said. And I think this also falls into kind of a bigger discussion about where K-pop is as far as the variety in sounds. We had all three of the big three girl groups release music this year twice. Red Velvet, all three, twice Red Velvet, BLACKPINK, have very, very distinctive sounds and styles where you can say like, yeah, no, they were not following any trends. They were doing their own thing. So I think in that sense, it's definitely something to be celebrated and say, hey man, 2022 is actually kind of cool in that sense. Like, you pick what you like, but at the same time, if you like all three of them, you can separate the three songs, right? Between Shutdown, Talk That Talk, and Feel My Rhythm. So I think as far as the peers go, all good stuff. In the song itself had a lot of really good balance. As far as when I was going through the different lines and like how they were arranged, I think the rap between Jennie and Lisa was great. Was, I think, not as good as Pink Venom, but I think definitely leans into the fact that they're honing their skills as rappers, right? Incredible quality, incredible wordplay, and like speed in which like they kind of play with the song, right? Because the song isn't the fast song. It is kind of they mentioned on the show, the sea shanty like melody, but the way that they rap into it, it's like, all right, it's convincing. But I do want to highlight our girl here, Rosie, and our girls here, Rosie and Jisoo. So a lot more balance in the way that they were given roles here. And I did like the fact that Jisoo had some rap sections, but also was blended into a lot of singing. And I think that kind of creativity and the way that she was incorporated into the song is a very subtle thing that isn't necessarily like a big picture. Like I listen to this song and I'm paying attention to all the details, but I think as far as what they got right, it's Jisoo's sections here. What did you think about the individual members for this song, Koro?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jisoo really stood out here, which is not something you can say often, unfortunately. Because she is my favorite member of the group, and I also like really enjoy her vocal tone, like period, in K-pop. But I feel like she's usually just like playing a part and not really given like any like shining moment, which is understandable because obviously Rose is the main vocalist. So if they're gonna give like an explosive moment, they'll give it to her, or sometimes even Jennie. But rarely I feel like that goes to Jisoo. And even here, it's not explosive or anything, but she just suits it so well that you can't help but feel like she's taking over the song when she comes in. And Rose obviously as well is amazing, but she's always amazing. Like that's just what she does. But then I think in this song, although I don't think the rap is as good as Pink Venom, I do think it is a good example of some of the differences between Lisa and Jennie. Once again, not to go super deep into it, but Jennie is a rapper here who's attacking the beat, whereas Lisa is riding the beat. And it's a really nice distinction between the two, having them back to back, because you see Jennie's like quick flow, and then Lisa's more like well, I don't want to actually imitate it, but it's a nice compliment once again between them, and I think that's something they've really honed in on with this run coming back. But I do think that this song, I'm glad you brought up Red Velvet and Twice, especially Red Velvet, because Warren compared the two songs who both had classical inspiration or like incorporation in the songs. I do think I was thinking this, and I'm glad he voiced it because he could describe it way better than me. I don't know anything about classical music, but Red Velvet really did a good job of incorporating that song that I think was Bach song or whatever into the fiber of that song. Whereas I feel like this song, it's just a sample, or like I guess it's a sample just on top of the song, and then the song is also there, but it doesn't really feel like these two things are necessarily melding that well together. So I do think it's a slightly missed opportunity to do more with it.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out on Warren on the show. So the way I think his quote was that Feel My Rhythm was a theme indicator that build on the entire song of the sample, right? Where it was kind of the introduction to the song, and then it was blended into the background of the song, right? Where it's still very much a K-pop song with classical notes. Whereas Shutdown, it feels like the entire song was rested upon the strings, and it's very in your face, right? Probably intentionally done, because I do feel like Pink Venom and Shutdown are aggressive ways to open an album, right? If the intention is to put these songs on an album to start off like this musical story. And I guess it works, but I think as an individual song, man, yeah, it does take a minute to like readjust and recalibrate to it. And I think it's a little too heavy on the fact that that string sample is the entire melody. Again, it makes sense. It's the through line for the song, but man, like you don't get much else. I'll just put it that way, for better or for worse, because I think in that sense, the girls themselves are able to at least musically be expressed a little bit more, without the instrumental being too, I don't know, too much of a character, like in Pink Venom. But at the same time here, it's like, oh, but you kind of just did the same thing over and over. And that kind of leads me into something that didn't work for me. It's the beat and the instrumental is very repetitive, as well as the lyric choices and the rap style. And that right there was just like, okay, like in the verses, like I can see how it flows into the song, with Jenny going drip, 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 shut it down, what, Lisa, shut it down, and then Rosie with vroom, vroom, vroom. Okay, like I can play into that as far as like a stylistic choice within like the verses. But the fact that in the chorus it's whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it. So many whippets, whippets. And that's just like, okay, this is one too many, right? So I get that may have been the intention for not just the song construction, the lyrics and everything, but that right there is probably the weakness of the song, where it's one too many. It's like, yeah, like dial that down a little bit, because then it takes me out of what they were trying to express as far as like being like these hardcore, like shut it down, like powerful ladies, right? Where it's like, what is happening? Like, what's going on? And then they did allude to that kind of on the main show too. Some of the lyrics are just like really disconnected in a lot of ways. Like some of the metaphors they're using are a big stretch of what they're trying to say, and it's like, okay, like we get it. You don't need like the extra 10-dimensional layer of the metaphor that you're going for. So I guess like that's kind of a weakness that didn't work for me in the song. But I think overall, if the intention was to make a really aggressive hip hop song, I think they got there. But man, some of these elements are just like, pull it back a little bit. You know, you're giving me a 20. I just needed like a 9.
Yeah. And I feel like with when you bring up the lyrics, I also realized this as we were talking about Pink Venom after I talked about the rapping, but I do think I'm biased to feel like they have more slick lyrics than most of K-pop, because most of the rapping is in English. So even like a base level of like one layer bar will make me think, oh, that was something. Whereas like that's probably a similar level to what's going on in other groups in Korean. I just don't notice it, or have the inability to notice it. But yeah, they're not really doing too much in a lot of their songs that it's like going 2 layers deep or 3 layers deep in the lyrics, or even just like one coherent layer. But well, yeah, I was also going to say that I do. You brought up a point earlier that this song is kind of safe, for Blackpink especially, and I do think, because coming into the song, I was really hoping for something like "As If It's Your Last," for example, where like that's an amazing song from them.
Such a classic. My God, man, classic. That one every time still
classic. Like you can't not listen to that song and be like, damn, this is actually really good. But I feel like leading up to Doo Doo Doo, they like tried a bunch of different things, and I do think that's where all their best songs are, in that lead up, and including Doo Doo Doo. Because I think like Whistle, As If It's Your Last, Playing with Fire, Doo 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 are like their 4 best songs to me, and they're all providing something different. But I think once they hit doo-doo-doo-doo and they're like, oh, this one's blowing, we're just going to keep running with it. And I think especially because that coincided with like great monetary success and exposure to the West, I do think as like a package, they're too cautious about being different to what people expect, but especially what the West expects. Because I think like the girl crush, darker concepting is more palatable in the West. So if they came back with even like something like Lovesick Girls, not my favorite song, but even though that might have been different from their like formula, even the music video is still darker. It's a little more mellow in terms of theming. So if they came back with something as bubblegummy as if it's your last, I do think there's a bit of hesitancy that might not be received well in the West, especially. Where I do think that would be a really refreshing switch up for them right now when they come back in 2 years. So we'll see.
3, 4, I don't know, man. Just like, am I gonna be around still? Am I gonna be a 95-year-old person on the internet? I don't know. No, I love everything that you said about kind of the pre-da-da-da-da days, right? The D4 days. And I think a lot of that was still grounded in a lot of very traditional K-pop, as traditional as you can get in the late 2010s, right? As far as the sound, the structure, and it very much fitting K-pop. When D4 came out, it's like, hey, it's like, oh, the West is picking up on this song. I think we have a formula that is accessible to not just K-pop fans. On a business strategy perspective, I get it. And they've made a ton of money since then because of it. Because again, it's how do you appeal to the largest audience? And I think a lot of the songs afterwards have definitely appealed to the largest audience. But I think if you're just talking about people who listen to K-pop a lot, every day, and have the expectation of what the K-pop industry, the cycles of the K-pop industry, then it's a bit jarring in the sense of that, hey, we're only getting music from BLACKPINK every 2 years. And then you're doing the same thing that you did 2 years ago. It's like, okay, like if you told me BLACKPINK had a new song every 6 to 7 months and that they were just small iterations on the last song, I think I would understand that more. And I think fans would definitely be okay with it. You wouldn't have this like very big divide of like the fandom. I hesitate to say all blinks because again, it's not a generalized, like some blinks are understandable, but like the fandom of people that call themselves blinks that then say, hey, if you criticize BLACKPINK, you're a terrible person. It's like, I'm really not. And then the other side of things where it's like, I hate everything BLACKPINK does. It's like, well, they haven't really done very much. So it's like, you know, maybe like slow down a little bit. It's like two very like polar opposite sides of like that argument or that discussion. I'll call it discussion. I think we should be a little more civil. But because BLACKPINK doesn't have so much music and it's like 2 years between tracks, it's like, yeah, I get it. It all like builds up to a boiling point, right? And I think everyone is just like so tense and like ready to love it, hate it, and then go to war over it. It's like, but if we just got music every 6 months, it'd be less crazy, right? And go ahead.
I think what you're saying perfectly, like from the producing side, is playing into why if you're coming back every 2 years, you're gonna feel like, well, we got to go with something that we know works, because you're like, I don't want to take a chance that this thing misses the mark, and then you have to come back the next 2 years with people sitting on this song that wasn't super well received. Whereas like if you come back every 6 to 7 months, you have sure, it's a luxury that only maybe the top groups have. Like say, I hate doing this because it's gonna get, I don't want this to be too controversial, but say like Twice, for example, they come back often enough, even as a top group so late in their career, that sure, they have songs that some people think missed the mark, but they're coming back again 4 months later, 6 months later, whatever, to come back with a banger. And all of a sudden, that song that might have missed the mark to you, you're like, but this actually reminds me why I love this group. And what if you're coming back every 2 years and you're coming back with the same thing? It's like, I can't remember exactly why I did love this group in the first place, which is songs like As If It's Your Last, Playing With Fire, all these older songs, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. I think it's the how current and how much you're in the consciousness of people throughout the course of time, right? Helps in a lot of kind of the ups and downs of what it would be throughout just K-pop, right? So Yeah, no, just all really insightful things. We got there, Koro. I will say, just on this song specifically, this is still a fairly uniquely different song than
Mhm.
the past inspired songs, between Kill This Love, How You Like That, and Pink Venom. This is probably the most different. But I think, again, if this song came out like 8 months after How You Like That, I think it's like, okay, a small like switch up from How You Like That, but I see where they're going. What's the next one? Now it's like, all right, that was 2 years ago. What's the next one down the road? So it's like, oh man, right? It's a different point of resignation, right? So let's end this song on kind of some highlights from the music video in particular. One, YG is making a ton of money, or like has all these sponsorships, because between Pink Venom and Shut Down, the outfits and the brands, out of control. I cannot name them all. It's just, my god, just absurd. But the music video references are pretty cool. I'm gonna run through it real quick and then have you react. So we have Whistle with Rosie sitting on the globe, Boombaya with Lisa dancing in front of like a truck of, I think it's like garbage bags, but there's like speakers on it.
Yeah.
Playing with Fire, Lisa on the pier. A different contrast here between the pier on fire and then the pier being rained on. And then Jenny playing with a match. Jisoo in front of a poster with the scene of her in front of a poster in front of paparazzi. Pretty cool meta moment. Jenny on the tank. Jisoo with an umbrella. And then Lisa with the sword. And then Kill This Love, we have Rosie driving down the highway and then Rosie hanging from the chandelier. I think those are all the ones that I caught. Reactions, thoughts. What did you think about the references and the inspiration from past music videos?
I thought it was cool. It's a nice thing to have, um, that can immediately make the music video kind of fun. Like you're immediately like it's interactive, maybe, that you're like watching. You're like, oh, this is this thing that I remember from past music videos. And because all the music videos are so visually stunning, you know these assets work. So from a business standpoint, you're bringing them back, and you know your music video will continue to be visually stunning because you have all these amazing aspects put into one video. And I really thought it was cool seeing them, like, they're the same things but slight twists on them. Like you said, with the Jisoo with the poster in front of the poster of, like, with the pink wig. I thought that was a very cool thing. But yeah, I like what they did here.
Yeah, I think it's a nice touch, a nice visual touch throughout the music video. Again, I think their music videos are quite stunning, just overall. This one right here, yeah, man, I think. I mean, it could very well have been like cheesy redoing a lot of the scenes, but it was edited in a way where it was smooth, where it's hints. So it's like, oh, very clear, like, yeah, that was part of like that giant tank. But then it's like, oh, but it plays really well with how the song is being edited into the music video. One thing we didn't touch on, Pink Venom. I wrote this down when I first watched the music video, and it's really cool that Doug, Warren, and Anita caught it. Way too many edits. Wow,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
so many cuts. I don't know what happened between the creative teams between Pink Venom and Shutdown, but the editing team much smoother on Shutdown. I'll say that much. That felt good. I was like, okay, this is a nice music video. This is shot and edited really well. So yeah, God, we went long on those songs, but you know what? They got music videos, so I think we go a little extra on those and give it some love. Any closing thoughts on Shutdown?
Yeah. Well, one, generally, I hate to end on it. Well, I'm gonna end on a positive, but before that, I think these last two songs shut down less. This one's more all right, and I think that's because the music video editing actually let it breathe. But I wasn't a big fan of the Pink Venom choreo, um, and the music video also wouldn't really let you see much of it with how much it was cutting. But shut down, slightly better, but I do think their choreo hasn't been as impactful as it has been in the past. So I'm curious to see how it is in the future. But the positive, there's no YG festival at the end of the song, so we take those. We absolutely take those. I thank you, Teddy, for not giving into your impulses and adding that in.
Yeah, Yeah, there is room for creativity and like unique direction moving forward. There is definitely room. It's just I honestly feel like if they came back more often, there'd be more time to breathe and work on
And
things,
try new
right?
things.
And try new things, exactly. But we get what we get, and I will say the rest of the album does a lot of the kind of experimentation and new direction that I wish future comebacks, the next comeback in 3 months, would be doing. And we're going to get into the rest of the album here. So we've got 8 songs total. I think there's a very big departure in the genre from the first 3 songs. So first 3 songs are very much like these hip hop songs, aggressive songs. And then it moves into a different direction. But with the through line that I do feel like there is a lot of self-reflection of who the girls are, whether that's lyrically or with the song itself. And I think this album, or me personally, I like this album more than the album. I think there's a little bit more polish and making sense of an album through and through, right? Where there's a thematic through line that kind of links all the songs together. Track number 3 is Type of Girl. This is the 3rd hip hop song on the album, written by Becca Boom, music by Becca Boom and Damin Suck. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Well, I'm going to throw it to you first because I got some things on this one. What did you think about track number 3, Type of Girl, the 3rd hip hop song on the album?
Yeah, this feels like they're the Pretty Savage of this album, maybe.
I wrote that down.
Yeah,
I wrote that down.
The obligatory Pretty Savage. But yeah, I feel like this song, I liked the build up as it was coming in, and then the chorus hit, and the first half I do think isn't so strong, so I wasn't really feeling it. The second half of the chorus, especially the first chorus, Jisoo sounds really good on that chorus, like really, really good. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something here, but this might be a skip. I don't know. And then Lisa's verse hits at the second verse, and her flow is like, even like it's in English, but even when I first listened to it, I was like, I don't care what she's saying. One, as I said before, she's super convincing. And 2, and I think that convincing thing, I keep bringing it up because I think that might be the most important thing in rap, period. Obviously, everyone loves skill, but there are millions of rappers out there who are super successful who don't have a lick of skill, and that's because they're very convincing on a decent enough beat. And Lisa is not to say she's one of them, but she's very convincing, and that flow is amazing. Like, I keep going back to the song, just replaying that part. So that part alone allowed me to add this song to my playlist. I said so in the Discord. I was like, I might have skipped this one, but Lisa, you got me again. And there's some sections in the song where I think it starts to sound like this, if I'm not mistaken. I think, and then after Lisa's verse, they do the same thing again, where like it's like a 4-line section, but each member takes 1 line. I thought that was a nice way to break up the song, because I think that's not something that happens too often in K-pop. Sure, it happens decent enough, but not in like one coherent section, or like just 1 line in general. But I did like that. So overall, it's not an amazing song, but I wouldn't say it's as good as Pretty Savage either, but it does the job.
We'll start with Pretty Savage. I wrote down in my note, this is a great 1-2 with Pretty Savage. As if like, you put this on a playlist, back-to-back tracks, whichever order you want. If you want to start with something more aggressive, you got Pretty Savage. If you want more of a vibe, definitely Type of Girl is your starter. But I think the 1-2 of both of those songs is incredible. I did that yesterday, listening to both back-to-back, and wow, they play off together really well. As far as Type of Girl itself, I think this is the clearest direction of the 3 hip hop songs. I think the song knows exactly what it wants to be. It's kind of a moody vibe of a beat. It's minimal, but it lets the members play musically within the song, right? I think the opener is kind of fantastic. It's a bit of a domino effect with all of them kind of starting off the line of type of girl, I'm the type of girl, and then into their line. Each of them kind of putting their imprint or stamp on the beginning of the song, right? Okay, this is what we're gonna sound like throughout the song. Jumping into Jisoo, the fact that she has a rap, but then she's also kind of the vocal connector throughout the song with the ad libs. Wow, that's really an amazing way to incorporate her into a primarily English track, right? Because I mean, yeah, like a lot of the songs are in all English, but I think that is probably like the most, I don't know, high level use of kind of allowing Jisoo to be expressed in a song that is primarily in English, right? I was looking through kind of some resources on like line distribution. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. It's pretty even. It's like surprisingly even with how even the distribution is for all four members on this song that's mostly in English. So shout out to like the production team for like understanding like that balance, right? As far as the rap, I gotta echo what you said about Lisa's second verse. I'm the type of girl that everybody type, double tap 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 tap. It's fire. Like my God, like kills it. Like once that came through, I was like, oh, we're doing this. We got this. I to spare everyone, I didn't go into like full rap mode, but I just if you know that section, it's there, right? So, and again, I think it plays into what the song is, which is kind of this grimier trap song, and it builds up to that point, right? I think I was a little bit more, well, I don't know if I was more open, but I think I wasn't hyper focused at the beginning of the song. That could be the nature of the song, where it's like it's supposed to lure you in, and it didn't have that impact, kind of like you're saying. But as soon as that second verse came in, I was like, all right, we're good. Like this is it. We're all in. I think this is the song with the fewest question marks as far as the hip hop songs. This song makes the most sense. It's the cleanest. It does the most with the least. I'm saying a lot of like these metaphorical type things, but I think for the most part, like exactly what the song is, and it doesn't try to depart too much from like the traditional like hip hop track formula, while also very much showcasing what the girls can do. So, yeah, man.
I just want to say like for like the comparison to Pretty Savage and then the comparison to the two songs before it on this album, like Pretty Savage and this song are like the two songs I'd recommend to a non-K-pop listening friend. It's like that kind of hip hop song where it's like it's safe enough, I'd say, but also it just like it's very it delivers on what it wants to do in the most coherent way. I can show this to a friend who's not into K-pop, who's not into BLACKPINK, and they can bump their head to this song right after some other random rapper song, just not miss a beat. So I think that's what this and Pretty Savage accomplishes as well, compared to even like title tracks that they put out.
Yeah, no, I think that's said really well. And it kind of like makes me reflect on like the title tracks, where I think they do try to do a lot because they want to have a big impact in how the general public receives the song. Where a song like this type of girl, it's pretty minimal, it's pretty straightforward, it doesn't do too many crazy things, but I think because it's simplicity, it makes it a really good song. I'll go as far as to say it makes it the best song of the three hip hop songs. So yeah, I mean, just like personally feeling, I go to this one of the three hip hop songs. Like, yeah, no, I'm going to give this to a friend, like you said, and be like, hey, this is what BLACKPINK's about as far as hip hop music. So yeah, man. All good stuff. Any closing thoughts on Type of Girl?
Yeah, now that you say that and I think about it, this is actually the song of the three I would actually want to revisit the most. Mainly for Lisa's verse, but still just generally, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to move into the next song on the album, on Born Pink. It is a switch up in genre. It plays with a lot of genres, actually. Yeah. The credits Scrolling. We've got written by Vivienne, Kush, Jizu, and Rosie. Music by Kush, RT, Vivienne, and Ido. Shout out to Jizu and Rosie for being on the writing team for this song. Yeah is a disco inspired retro-ish 80s synthy alternative song. I think it definitely has a lot of the late 80s like alternative rock that plays into like the synth, right? And man, this one puts me right into like a Stranger Things season, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm riding my bike with no internet and just like living the 80s. What'd you think about this song being a brighter shift from for the album?
Yeah, I didn't think about it, but when you say Stranger Things, I can kind of see that, and also just like it feels kind of like in a show like that, it's kind of like a montage of like maybe like things wrapping up, or like someone, it's like you see kids riding their bike around as it's building up, and then the chorus hits, and it's very celebratory maybe, but it's like cozy. I don't know. The song feels very like wintry in that kind of way. Um, but as for the song itself, I do think, and maybe this is a running theme with them right now, but I do think the build up is really good, and then the chorus doesn't quite hit for me. Then again, I'm not really one for instrumental choruses in general, but it doesn't really deliver in the way I think maybe it was intending. But I do think the build up, and then I was in the second verse as well, and just the disco undertone throughout the whole thing is strong enough for me to come back to it, and I really think it suits Rosie's vocals. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, man. The intro of the song actually feels like a different song. Well, a different genre, right? It kind of starts out with the guitar strumming, and in my head, I was thinking, "Oh, it's gonna be a rock song." It is not. It is very bright. I do like what you said about kind of the lead up into the choruses. I think the choruses work in the sense that it's a B-side, but again, it doesn't have that powerful punch of what the title is, right? It's like yeah, and then it's kind of just leans into the instrumental, like you said. But some of the strengths of the song definitely are the vocals, the singing. Rosie, I think she's being directed very similarly throughout all the songs in a very good way, where she's leaning into a lot of the raspiness of her voice, kind of giving it a little bit more of an indie pop flavor to a lot of the songs without it being just like an indie pop like trope, right? If that makes sense. I really love Jenny singing here. She's got very, very clean, like nice palette cleansing moments that are such a contrast from her rapping of the first three songs. So it's like, oh yeah, Jenny can sing. Jenny's really good at singing. And I do like the fact that that's very much a highlight within this song. Elisa, again, she's also another like crazy rapper on this group, but she's given enough parts of the song where it's like just nice clean inserts to allow for her singing and brightness, I guess, to kind of showcase within the song. Just overall, I do like the song a lot. I think it fits in a theatrical sense, kind of like mentioned about being a winter or like a colder season kind of song. But I think my shortcoming for the song is the fact that it ends very abruptly. It's like what was the choice to fade this out like a Spotify playlist? What is happening here? I was very caught off guard and surprised. It's like, oh, they chose that way to end the song. Okay, because the song was going in a great direction. I think that there was a lot of very clear purpose to the song, and then it ended kind of without a purpose. I was like, all right, cool. I guess we're just done. What are your thoughts on? Any other thoughts on the song? Maybe things that didn't work for you.
Yeah, I thought that fade out was really random. Well, maybe not. Maybe because of the inspiration, maybe 80s kind of song. Maybe they're feeling that's what they would do for a song like this. But I feel like songs that used to fade out would let it happen really naturally, whereas like they give enough leeway at the end of the song of like the repetition of the chorus or whatever like the outro is, Yeah, you can hear it a couple times and then it fades out in a really smooth way. This song just kind of felt like, okay, okay, we're fading out now, and then just happens, and then within 4 bars, or I don't know, I didn't count it, but it was like song's over, and I was like, that's really abrupt for an ending and just a fade out in general. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was really odd, and I thought, are they doing that for the entire album? But I'm pretty sure this is the only song they do it for.
The
So that
only
was really
song,
weird.
the only song, man. It's just like, all right, well, all right, it's here. It exists this way. Yeah, I think overall the song does a really nice job of capturing a moment, right, where you're definitely feeling Blackpink's version of a retro song, which in a crazy way, it's like they haven't done one yet. Also,
Really
granted, they
true.
haven't done music throughout the kind of that retro boom in the the late 2019, early 2020s. Because so much retro happened in that period, and then Blackpink just never actually did a retro song. So now we got one, and I think they accomplished it and nailed it, minus the end. I think is where I land with that. Yeah, because I think for a B side, I'm a little bit more lenient on kind of the like you said, like the instrumental chorus, because it doesn't necessarily have to have that impact. But yeah, man, it's like you. All right, well, cool. We ended. We're good. Any closing thoughts on yeah, yeah, yeah?
Not much. I just don't think I'm really gonna come back to this one that much, but I do think it's pleasant enough when you listen to it.
Yeah, very pleasant song. Nice little midpoint of the album. All right, we're coming up to the next song here that I will just spoil and just say this is my favorite song for many reasons. We've got track number
Sure.
5, Hard to Love. It's Rosie's single, written by Freddie Wexler, Bianca Bush Atterbury, Max Wolfgang, and Teddy. Music by Wexler, Teddy, Atterbury, Wolfgang, 24 and RT. So a lot of different producers on the song as far as the writing and the music itself. I'm pretty sure most of the other names that I said that weren't Teddy and RT and 24 are Western producers. And it definitely shows. This song is Rosie, guitar girl, indie pop girl. So much emotion kind of goes into like the very first note of her just like singing into the song. She, for those of you that don't know, she is my favorite member of Blackpink, and I definitely would go as far as to say she is my everything. Yes, that's where we're at, guys. And I think this song very much encapsulates kind of what I've loved about her as a singer, her kind of capturing the character of the indie girl, the guitar girl, kind of what Gone was, but in a more uplifting way. Uplifting relative because the lyrics are kind of like, oh man, this is rough. But again, I think this is kind of the genre that I think fits Rosie really well. And this is what I was alluding to a little bit earlier. I really hope, want Blackpink to be like, okay, we did our hip hop thing. Now we're going to do our alternative contemporary pop thing. And this song right here is like, oh yeah, go in this direction. Do this, please. As a group song. But we got definitely just the Rosie special. And I think she just absolutely nails all the emotional beats of what this song is representing. All right, I talked a lot. What are your thoughts, Koro, on Hard to Love?
Yeah, I thought this was a very pleasant surprise to get Rosie solo out of nowhere. I didn't realize this was coming. I don't want to take anything away from Rosie. Let's just say also add a Jisoo solo at some point in there, please. We can do both. Why not? But yeah, I think I'm on the other side of the fence where I'm not really a fan of the girl with the guitar thing in general. I do think Rosie does a good job at it. I think her vocal tone really suits it. But generally, that's not my kind of music. But so when it was building up, I was like, this is, I guess, what you can expect from something Rosie centered, but not really for me. And then that like vocal, that rising vocal that goes into the chorus is amazing. It's so good. And then we get like the chorus hits, and I'm like, okay, now I can rock with this song and then come back to it because it really put a nice spin on it in a way that I feel like her solo release, was it last year, didn't. Especially with On the Ground, that was not for me. But this, I was like, this is what we're getting from Rosie. I would like to see some more, please.
Yeah, I love what you said about the rising vocal. That was definitely just a standout moment where it, like, I don't want to say peaks in the song. There's a different word for it, but like it's the first peak, right? Where it's like it emotionally drags you into like what the intention of the song is. It's this is what I kind of hoped her solo was going to be last year. On the Ground was very much a kind of Taylor Swift pop inspired song, which, you know, nothing wrong with Taylor Swift music. You know, if you love her and her more modern type of sound or more current sound, all great. But this really leans into like the idea of kind of the indie girl, right? Again, like I keep saying, like it's the character, but she's definitely like portraying that in a lot of her musical sensibilities, the way she sings. And this song right here captures a lot of that. I think for the most part, my interpretation of the beat itself is electronic rock. And it really reminded me a lot of Pharrell and Daft Punk, kind of when they were producing music together. And it's like, if you took away the vocals, this could just be kind of an electric rock song, like an electro pop kind of rock song. But then because she's able to kind of infuse a lot of her emotions into like the singing and the lyrics themselves, it changes the meaning of the song, right? In a really nice way. Going into the lyrics, man, there's a lot of heartache here, man. So the title is Hard to Love, and she's telling a lover that it's time that the relationship's over, but I wrote a whole thing about past relationships. I don't know, man. Should I go into it? So I've lived very similar situations like this with the past relationship where, you're with someone and, you don't really know exactly the reason why, but you have a sense that it's not going in the right direction. You have a sense that you are just not the one for each other, right? But you are there for each other. You have support each other. You know each other intimately, deeply, right? Because of the time you spent together, because you've been in that relationship. And that's what I think is being said in this song, where you have this bond and connection, this romance with another person, but it's not right. You know that it's nothing wrong with them. It's truly the line, it's not you, it's me. But there are very good reasons, and here's what I'm going to lay out for you. It's because she's still working on herself as a person. She's going to cause a lot of stress and heartache in a lot of different ways that she can't even anticipate in the future, but she knows that she is still working on stuff. As much as the other person loves her, she knows she has to let them go, not just for herself, but for the other person too. And yeah, man, I'm gone through a lot of things as far as relationships in the past, and I was like, yep, I've been there, done that. I've been on the other side of that, been the guy being told, it's like, hey, it's not working out, but I still love you and I still want to be there for you, but we can't be together. And it's just like, oh, Rose, you did that to me. You did that to me. This song, come on, man. Yeah. Well, what are your reactions to kind of me waxing poetic to the lyrics of this song, Koro? And just any thoughts you have on that?
No, man, that was beautiful. Especially because I didn't think much about it. First few listens, I guess I was more thinking just musically. And even though I think pretty sure the song's all in English too. So the weird thing with K-pop, when something's all in English, it's so unexpected that I don't really even take it in, even though I can understand it in theory. But yeah, I thought that was a really grounded, no pun intended, way more than on the ground. But this was a really grounded take on love and relationships in general, very realistic, where I feel like most of K-pop is very idealistic in the way they talk about love. And even like sad love songs or breakup songs in K-pop are very like one note, or exactly what you would expect from a song like that. But this is a very mature and sobering take on relationships. So I'm glad you did bring that up. I think that'll make the song even more interesting to go back and listen to now.
Yeah, man. God, the way you described it is way more concise than what I said, which is perfect, by the way. Yeah, I echo everything you said about a lot of K-pop songs being idealistic fantasies of what relationships are, and even what breakups are, right? It's this whole idea of it's got to be dramatic, it's got to be world shaking, whereas this one is very sincere. It's more a parallel to what the real world would probably what you would experience in the real world as far as relationships, where you have a real talk with someone, you have a very mature talk with someone, and it's gonna hurt. It's never a clean, seamless end or transition, but it's the reality of things, and I think she captures the reality of love and heartbreak really well here. So, shout out to you, Rosie. You did a song for me. Thank you, appreciate it, and it means a lot. So, one day, well, I'll get to thank you in person. Probably, maybe. All right, man. We're going to move on now to The Happiest Girl. That is track number 6. Lyrics by Teddy Sinclair. So, different Teddy. Willie Sinclair and Koro. Music by Teddy and Willie Sinclair. Koro and 24. All right, man, this is some sad girl stuff. Deeply emotional. I talked a lot in the last song. Your turn. What did you think about The Happiest Girl, Koro?
I wish I had as much to say about it, but I will say it had great atmosphere. I feel like the song is very atmospheric in the way it delivered its melancholy. I do think something about it felt very Sia. Not that I listened to much Sia at all, but something about it when I heard it, I think especially Jenny's voice when it comes in felt kind of grandiose in the way I think of Sia anyway. But this song, I mentioned it on the Discord. I thought something about it felt too samey that I thought it must be baiting me into some like dramatic switch up. I thought it was going to be like a trap switch up or maybe EDM. I was hoping for trap, if anything. But it kind of just remained on that path. And then it did get, for the last chorus, it got a little more emotional with some more drums. But it didn't do much for me in the way I was hoping that switch up might have. But I do think the vocals overall really do shine in the song. So I'm glad we don't get to see that much in like the title tracks, for example, like we talked about. But I'm glad there's room for that here and on the B-sides.
Yeah. Through and through, the song is definitely a ballad, definitely an emotional track. It's primarily a piano ballad. And it's really the girls kind of expressing themselves, vocally, kind of allowing the emotions to set in the way they sing. I love the fact that Jisoo has kind of the harder sections of the song, in a combination with kind of a little bit of a breathy singing while also singing in English. Shout out to you, girl. Man, she's singing a lot of English on this album. And still maintaining the fact that this song is very much about a reflection of how you're supposed to portray yourself, especially if you're a person in entertainment under a microscope in the spotlight, right? So, we're, as entertainers, you're expected to just stand on stage and smile while also the reality of, being, picked apart every single moment. And I think without being too accusatory, I think is the best way I can think about that. It's more of wanting for other people to have empathy for you, right? And being okay with the fact that oftentimes people won't, or at least oftentimes people will forget to, right? It is very much conveyed in this song. I don't think it's too heavy-handed in that sense. I think it does a nice job of, at least if you're a person who has ever felt this way, you understand this feeling, right? You don't necessarily have to be an entertainer or someone who is in the public eye, but if you've ever felt that you were just told to shut up and smile, then you definitely feel this way. Some of my friends who are girls, who are women, have mentioned to me just directly and saying this song means a lot to them. Again, I'm not a girl or a woman and I've never been in those situations, so I don't want to speak for them. But from what they've told me, it's very meaningful in the sense that, I mean, oftentimes girls are just kind of told to just be present and just be there and just not have any agency, right? I think, yes, there's been a lot of visibility in changing a lot of that because of social media, because of the internet. But I still think in everyday life, there's a lot of dismissal, right? Of kind of what it means to be a woman. And I think those experiences are really valuable. And the fact that friends separately have told me directly that this means a lot to them because it kind of makes them feel seen is important. And I think that's a really nice message for BLACKPINK to be singing about, right? Again, I'm a guy, so I can only speak to the emotion that I felt in the song, and they do a great job of conveying that. But man, like I think, and I hope they do more stuff like this with more sincerity, because I think it is a very sincere song overall. So yeah, man. Any closing thoughts on The Happiest Girl?
And you're killing it with these lyric breakdowns, man. These are levels way beyond me, but I do think like, especially the line "I can stop the tears if I want to." I think that's a really um, powerful line, way more than it might suggest just on the surface. So I do think I can see how the song is very impactful to a lot of people.
Yeah. No, it's nice, man. I think, I hope like this is kind of the direction of what BLACKPINK wants to do on their own, right? Someday, eventually in the future, when they're just artists on their own without kind of the restrictions of like sales and just catering to larger audiences, it's just like they have it in them. You know, they definitely have the emotional intelligence to connect to something like this, to these types of stories. So it's really important. All right, let's move on now to the penultimate song, track number 7, Tally, lyrics by Nat Dunn, David Felon, Alex Oriot, Brian Lee, music by Dunn, Felon, Oriot, La Prade, and 24. Koro, this is Warren's favorite song. It's kind of a soft rock alt song. Wow, I put words there together. Kind of angsty. Well, that's your Warren's representative here. What did Warren say about liking this song the most on this album? And how do you feel about Warren's reaction, response, emotional connection to Tally?
Well, to be honest, he didn't say much that I remember. I just remember he did link it in the Discord, and he said best song on the album, and I legitimately didn't know if he was trolling or not, because we've gotten to that point where I can't tell with certain things, especially BLACKPINK related, how serious people are being. But he did say it was a hip hop / rock song with, it had ballad melodies as well, and I was worried about it before I heard the hip hop / rock thing. I was worried about it because I'm not a ballad person, generally, as you can probably tell from my reaction to Happiest Girl. But I do think having those rock and especially hip hop elements in the song gave it a nice pace where I felt like there was something to latch onto as the song went through. And I do think this is one of the stronger choruses on the album. For an album where as you can probably tell, I've mentioned that a lot of these choruses haven't really delivered in the way I was hoping. I do think this song does maintain its strength throughout. And I think it might be, I don't think it's my favorite on the album, but I do think it's probably one of the best produced on the album.
Nice. Okay, cool. We talked a little bit before this. So I'll start with kind of my overall feelings about the song. I think it accomplishes what it wants as far as being an angsty song. The instrumental is doing that. The lyrics definitely do that, right? It's really funny that Warren just, connects with angsty songs. But it makes sense now that he kind of described it as a rock hip hop song, where it kind of blends those two genres with the way that the lines are delivered versus the actual song itself, right? And I think this is a nice penultimate song where it's like it kind of wakes you up and says, "Hey, like we're still the party's still going," kind of thing. While also just shifting, like maintaining the genre that they're in. What? So I made a note here for the next album, 4 years from now. This is the song that I kind of would like for them to base the album off of, where they're going into alternative rock, they're going to like a 2000s like early rock, but then doing some YG things, a little bit of the rap, some of the aggression, and kind of keeping in this type of melody. Again, like if this was like the next comeback, that's kind of cool. Like if we got something in February like this, if we got Tally in February as the next comeback, one, it would surprise everyone because we got another comeback within 6 months. Two, it's like, oh cool, it's like we got another like genre shift, like a good nice progression for BLACKPINK. But the fact that they just like kind of snuck this on this album, and you know it's really up to the people who dig into the album to find this song, it puts into question, I guess, the viability of getting a full genre shift, or at least a higher emphasis on that for a title track, right? So I think I'm kind of split in the sense that I like the song just fine, but this could be so much more. Well, with that, I think I also mentioned like before we talked, this might be my least favorite song, and it's not necessarily for the way that the song is constructed or composed. I understand the message of the song. I think the lyric choices are a little heavy-handed. I think throughout the song, throughout the album, you have a combination of like confidence, you know, like badass chick, you know, girl crush, and then some of the emotions of like just what it means to be a person in your mid-20s, kind of going through ups and downs of the world, exploration. And then Tally is like, we kept all the receipts and now we're calling everyone out. It's like, what? Like, right? It's like, I get it. Like at a certain point, it's like, it's throughout the entire song. Like I get if that's like somewhat of the motifs throughout the song, and then kind of playing back into like, you know, being badass chicks, or just like, you know, what it means for them to like be an entertainer. But no, it's just like literally all receipts, and just like it's a little much for me. It's like it's a little overwhelming. It's like, okay, okay, we get it, because at a certain point it feels like complaining. And you know, everyone's entitled to like complain and like vent and just like let out your feelings about the world. But there's a point of diminishing returns where it's just like it feels self-harmful, right? Where you're just like complaining to complain. It's like, okay. Again, the girls had nothing to do with the lyric choices here. So this is not a BLACKPINK thing. This is just like, wow, the creative team really decided to create a receipts song. So cool. But again, if this is supposed to be a rap song that does that, okay, I get it. But it's rap rock, and there's, I don't know, my headspace is a little bit cloudy. Maybe I'll like the song in a month. Maybe I'll just like kind of ignore the lyrics a bit. But so far, every time I come to it, it's like, oh, I gotta brace myself for the receipts song. And you know, here we are. What do you think about kind of the receipts nature of this song?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I didn't think about it, but it is quite prevalent throughout the song, and I can get it on a level, because I do think they have reason. Not that it's necessarily them writing it, but they have reason to feel like they need to take receipts, because they are such a polarizing group, with their release schedule and their musical record since D4. But generally, it doesn't. Things like this it's hard for them to hit that hard when you're at the top and have been at the top for such a long time. Sure, that's a lot of the time that's when it hits the hardest, when you see like a rapper who was literally at the bottom, everyone doubts them, then they're at the top, and you're like, okay, you now have this platform to say, yeah, forget all of you. You doubted me, and now I'm here, and that hits because you see that journey. But I don't ever feel like there were ever that that group that was counted out at at the beginning, um, like some new group, for example, that just happens to become as big as they are. Like I don't really think that's really there underlying this.
Yeah, you described that perfectly. Yeah, way better than I did, but yeah, I'm just gonna go with that one. But overall, I think the genre is what I really like about the song. Like this is the one where it's like, hey, next comeback, this one, and then base the album off of this, because I think that's a pretty cool direction. But yeah, I think just this song leaves me wanting more, in the sense that please can we do more of this? And I think that's where I'm just a little hesitant to completely like love the song, because yeah, it's just I need all those things, all those reasons. Any closing thoughts on Tally?
No, not much. I think this is probably one of the more this is one of those that I will definitely return to at some point. It's still a little slow for me, just generally. You know, I'm an upbeat kind of guy, so I won't be searching for it a lot. But when I think of this album, this will be one of the songs where I'm like, oh, that was a standout musically.
Koro takes receipts, confirmed. All right. Moving on to the final song on the album, we've got Ready to Love. Lyrics by Teddy and Vivienne. Music by Teddy, Vivienne, 24, Kush, and Boom. This song was released on PUBG. I think it was PUBG.
I think so.
I really hope I have that correct. Sorry for all the other like online gamer community people.
Fortnite people are gonna come for you.
I know. Is it Fortnite?
No, I think it's PUBG. You're right.
Right, PUBG, right. But yes, the song was released digitally as a digital concert. I get it because they made a ton of money. I would have preferred it just to be a song by itself because I like this song. But again, made a lot of money. Good business move. Good job. A lot of gamers probably were at that concert. I had a friend. He plays video games. He likes like high energy, like K-pop. So like BLACKPINK, he really liked. KDA. Big fan of them. So then he bought the concert and he sent me text of screenshots of like, yeah, I wish I was this close to a BLACKPINK concert. It's like, oh, you bought it. Good for you. It's like, all right, we're here. But all right, so this is an EDM festival song. This is a finale song. I think it's a nice way to end the album. I think it's like an uplifting way. It's one of those curtain call songs, right? It's like you come back, encore. What did you think about the high energy EDM nature of Ready for Love?
It's not for me. This is just generally this isn't the kind of song that I'm looking for. And maybe I don't think so, but I could be persuaded to think that PUBG visual is tainting my image of the song. But they have it just doesn't really hit for me. Even they have other songs like this that they've had on previous albums, like Forever Young or Don't Know What to Do. Not quite the same, but like similar-ish kind of deliveries. I think those are like peak versions of what a song like this could sound like. And even though this isn't really my thing, I can appreciate those songs, especially Forever Young. I really like that song. But this one just feels like one of those. It feels like a kind of the most standard version of this kind of song. Especially when I know they can do this better. It's just not really hitting for me.
Yeah, now that you said those other two songs, I'm only thinking about those two songs now. For me, it was always, well, Forever One's amazing, and then I don't know what to do. I think that's the title. I hope that's the title. I'm so sorry.
Know what to do, but it's the same exact
right.
thing, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, that one was like, oh, okay, cool, and they can really like express themselves kind of emotionally in the song now, while also kind of maintaining the genre. Ready for Love, I think I really wanted to like the song, and now I'm like convincing myself like, oh yeah, maybe I didn't really love the song, like in real time, because I think the EDM nature and like the festival nature of the song is really fun. I can see this at a rave. I can see like a DJ just like throwing up like the beginning section of this song as like the intro to a set. But then we get to the chorus, and man, they probably took a song from 2009 and said, "Oh, here you go." We went in the time machine and went to EDC back when EDC was like 2 people, and it's like, oh man, yeah, you're right. This song is a little dated in that sense. The chorus, those horns. It's like, oh, what are we doing? But I gotta say, but I will just like absolute highlight. Rosie's intro to open the song
Yeah.
is spectacular. I like the fact that it does give a little bit of like the fantastical nature to like like an electric force type of feel. And if they just kept going with that, they would have been so much nicer. It would have been more of a clear through line, because I think there is a very clear switch up in the middle of the song, especially not middle of the song, at the chorus, specifically at the chorus, where it is just a regular generic festival song. And I think that's where it's like, could have done so much more. I guess we don't really have too much more to say, but any other thoughts on Ready for Love?
Yeah, I think you hit it really well, is that the chorus really lets the song down. And I think this being the last song, obviously maybe it was just tacked on there because it's the PUBG thing, but that really says a lot about what I feel about this album in general with the choruses. Whereas like those songs Forever Young and Don't Know What to Do, like songs like these really hinge on what you do with that instrumental in the chorus. And those songs like have very catchy instrumentals. And maybe because they also have choreo, I can think of those with it as well. But this song just feels like it's building. I'm like, the build is actually, I'm with it. And then it hits. I'm like, might have to walk out. I'm not really feeling this one. If I'm at the rave, I'm turning around and I'm going to see what other stage there is. It's like that kind of feeling.
Yeah. Oh, great visual. Great visual. I definitely feel that. But yeah, it's the last song. It's a PUBG special. Made a ton of money off of the song. It was going in a nice direction. It just needed a little bit more sauce to kind of finish out the album. But I think overall, still a nice way to end the album, in the sense that it is more of the encore stage song than anything. And
yeah,
I think we can kind of wrap up the entire album here. So I think I mentioned this earlier, but for the most part, I think there is a far more clear direction in this album, in Born Pink, than I think in past albums, right? And all the songs make sense. I think there's a lot of polish to the songs, and it kind of tells a complete story. And I always appreciate that with an album, right? With the album, I like the individual songs, and I'll let you kind of describe it, but they do feel a little separated from themselves. Koro, what do you think about the 2 albums in comparison?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before we recorded, but the album feels much more like they're trying to hit with every song, and it feels like a playlist of what Blackpink is or could be. Especially, I feel like that's their first big album, and they're going for the West, and they have Selena Gomez and Cardi B, and it feels like, okay, we're just gonna give you slight different tastes of Blackpink, but it doesn't really hold together that well if you really hold it under the microscope and play it start to finish. I feel like this album, I don't know if it has like the impact, like the individual songs. I don't think they have necessarily the impact of some of those songs, but as a package, I do think this feels way more cohesive for them and shows more sides of them that I think the West hadn't necessarily gotten yet. Obviously, the songs are there, but like since they've become bigger in the West, I don't think that they've had like songs like "Happiest Girl" or "Tally" or things like that, where I feel like it really shows what they can do outside of the hip hop centric Blackpink. And I was gonna say before that I think "Tally" would have been a much more appropriate ending for the album, because "Ready for Love" does feel like it's just added on as a PUBG thing. But I like what you said, where Tally, well, you said "Ready for Love" is like the encore, so Tally is like the actual concert ending, and then they leave, and then "Ready for Love's" come back for the encore. I do think that works well.
Yeah, nice, man. Yeah, I'm glad we kind of landed on that as well. No, all good things you said about the album being kind of a showcase of separate songs, not necessarily with songs that connect. Again, like a playlist. While Born Pink definitely has more of a consistency as far as the message and cohesion. Yeah. So yeah, Coral, you're so wise, so insightful. You got all the things, man. All right. Well, that does it for our Born Pink album discussion. God, we went long, but it's all good because it's a lot to talk about. And overall, I think I do like the album. I can definitely listen to it through and through. Um, Again, like a lot of like almost every Blackpink release since Kill This Love, it does leave me hoping, anticipating, wanting more. And it kind of feels like that's on purpose now. And me personally, I've kind of accepted it, but I also understand why that is so challenging for a lot of people. It's challenging for me. I don't like it, but I have a lot of other things to fill up my time. And as much as I love Blackpink, I also can listen to literally every other group that I've been listening to this year, which is so much music. So I think I'm okay with the fact that I get Blackpink here and there while filling in the time with a group like Billy. Frickin' love Billy. Group like Rocket Punch. Hey Warren, I like Rocket Punch now. So shout out to like the smaller groups and the other K-pop groups that are pulling through and trying to make it. Dreamcatcher, I will eventually come around to Dreamcatcher. I promise you.
Yes.
Well, let's move into closing thoughts. You got any life updates for us, Koro?
Not really. Not doing much. Looking for a job now, post grad. My pup is getting a little bigger. He just ran in here toward the end of this as you were doing your album wrap. So hoping he stays calm and doesn't interrupt the recording. But
that's perfect, and we love the presence of the pup. Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm looking forward to, as the year ends, seeing what some of these groups come back with, especially the rookie groups. I think it's heating up. It's not really a race. Obviously, them all doing well, I think, benefits each other in the end. But I'm really curious to see what some of these groups come back with. And you said it perfectly that allows me to not have to worry about and feel like I'm biding time until the next Blackpink comeback. If that was my only group somehow that I was into, which maybe it is for some people because they are kind of a gateway group, but you're like, oh damn, I just have this 8-track full album to quote unquote full album to listen to for 2 years. But no, Kepler's coming back soon, I think, which surprised me with Up, which was a very, very pleasant surprise. Hoping New Jeans comes back. I really enjoyed their stuff. Obviously, DC's coming back, and Dreamcatcher for the uninitiated are coming back in October. I'm looking forward to things like that, and I'm glad I got to talk about this album because I wasn't listening to it much before you asked me to come on, and hearing some of the ways you talked about these songs will make it a much more interesting re-listen. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. It's always a pleasure having you on, and it does definitely kind of elevate the experience for me. Talking to another human being about just the things we love, being able to critique it like honestly, right? I think it's a really important like social component that I feel like I've said this like a million times, but it's just I love it. I think it just really adds just like to the whole human experience. Again, like the Discord and the internet are amazing substitutes in a lot of way. If you don't have access to any of that, right? If you're not able to talk to a person, but I think the effort is definitely well worth it to make a connection, make a friend, and then try to find a way to just hear that other person's voice, like actual voice. Because I do want to quick shout out the main show and the crew. just a general love and appreciation for all that they do. I understand BLACKPINK is a very difficult, sensitive, touchy. Gotta be careful on the internet with how it's received. And I just want to say, for anyone giving them a hard time, maybe go outside. That's all I gotta say. Because the way they covered it was so sincere, was so genuine and fair. Honestly, like, if you can't find the fun and comedy in the way they talked about certain things, then maybe you should watch like a comedy and like learn to laugh, because they are just really just down to earth and just like understand that it's all for fun, right? And I hope they feel good about it. I will continue to support and give them love and affection for everything that they do. So, Doug, Warren, and Anita, you guys are doing great. Keep it up. That's all I got.
Killing it. Yeah. Especially if you think they're, let's just say, I think they give BLACKPINK more leeway than you might expect. If you really listen to this podcast, they are not afraid to go give truly honest opinions about a lot of groups. And even knowing the response that BLACKPINK coverage can get, they still give BLACKPINK a real good try. It's not like they're wanting to hate on anything, and I think they are very balanced about how they cover these things. So it just, honestly, at this point, it impresses me how quickly these comments show up on these podcasts. I think I'm quick to the podcast sometimes, and then I'll just see a comment there that showed up like 5 minutes after it dropped. I'm like, well, clearly you're just skipping here to find something to be mad about. So I think if you really want to comment on what they do, I think you should listen a little more to what they're actually saying. They're doing really honest work, I think, about this industry.
100%. All right. On that note, Koro, thank you again. Always an amazing time. I swear you're not the only guest on this show, but it's just really nice to have you on, man. So we'll probably do something. So we'll figure something out in the future.
For sure.
All right. Signing out. Thank you everyone for listening to the Soju Sessions on the Soju Talk Nation podcast feed. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and continue the conversation on the Soju Talk K-pop podcast Discord. For Koro, I'm Crispy, and this has been the Soju Sessions.